Hello, this is Roderick Hurley, the principal over at Bedford Junior High School, and I'm going to explain to you the new weighting and scoring for the evaluation tool that we're using with the teachers this coming 2014-15 school year. So last year, our categories are divided in 7 parts, and you can see the 7 parts right there. Keep in mind the data portion is at 25%, that's the highest weight. That is state mandated, there. In fact, pushing to have that go higher, but they keep on bulking, and we've installed at 25% for a little while now. Our scoring was teachers were given a 1, 2, 3, 4 for every standard in the category. Then each category standard was converted to percents. So, for example, a teacher in the competence category received 2 effectives and 1 highly effective would get a percent of, well, be a 3 plus 3 plus 4, which is 10 out of 12, so an 83.3%. Then after you got your percentage and taking into account the weights, you're put in a score, which is basically like a grading scale. So highly effective was 90 to 100, effective 70 to 90, minimally effective 60 to 70, and less than 60 was ineffective. And this is something that Tecumseh used, and we kind of adopted it. And if you do some Googling, a lot of schools use something very similar. So just converting to the standard, we know grading scale, so we're going to do a grading scale. So the big changes. So we're going to keep the weights of the categories the same, so those are the same. However, we're going to go to a 4-point grading system so that each score is equally weighted. So an ineffective is 1, a minimally effective 2, effective 3, and a highly effective 4. So we're not changing them to percents. We're keeping them as the raw score. So here's our categories. Everything stays the same there, still that 25% mandate. So teachers are given either a 1, 2, 3, or 4 for every standard in the category, 1 being ineffective and 4 being highly effective. So for example, a teacher in the competence category received 2 effectives and 1 highly effective. They would get an average score of, so add them up, 3 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. 10 divided by 3 is 3.33. Then each category would be taking into account the weights. You get a final score, and our final scores are highly effective 3.5 to 4, effective 2.5 to 3.5, minimally effective 1.5 to 2.5, and less than 1.5 is ineffective. So here's a little visual representation of this to scale for my math teaching friends. So here's the new point system, and below is the 100-point system. So our 4-point scale, you can either get a 4, a 3, 2, or 1. Now last year you got a 4, a 3, 2, or 1, but it converted it to percentages, so that's why the 100, 75, 50, and 25% are there. But there's some problems with the 100-point scale, which it's nice. We're very fortunate in this district. We had Thomas Gusky talk about the 100-point scale several years ago to everyone. This year, the junior high school and select elementary teachers had Rick Wormley come and talk to you about grading. And some of the problems with the scale, the 100-point scale, is there's some weighting that's involved in terms of the lower numbers. For example, in the 100-point scale, we basically adopted a grading scale exactly like the current grading scale we use here at Bedford. So 100 to 90 is an A, 90 to 80 is a B, 80 to 70 is C, and 70 to 60 D, less than 60 is an F. We adopted that scale. However, the state scale of minimally effective gave you a 2, which is a 50%. So in theory, if you look at on paper, if a teacher received all minimally effectives, you'd think, well, their final score should be minimally effective. But because of the 100-point scale, if a teacher received all minimally effectives, they received all 50s, and that would put them in the ineffective range. So that didn't really make sense. If your paper said all minimally effective, then you actually got an ineffective as your final rating. So up here above is a comparison to the 4-point scale, which is what we're doing this year. And you can see the lines all match up, the little dashed lines. This is all up here. So you can either get a 4, a 3, a 2, or 1. Note that the scores deviate from the score by a half. So 4 goes down a half. Technically, it can't go up a half because you can't get higher than a 4. The effective goes up a half or down a half. The minimally effective up a half, down a half, and ineffective goes up a half because you can't get less than 1. So basically, it's centered around the effective and minimally effective by a half each way, and above a half for the ineffective and below a half for the highly effective. So you can see the symmetry involved there. The transition zones for the switch is that 3.5, 2.5, and 1.5, which is halfway between all the ratings. So in theory here, if you got all E's, you'd be effective. If you got all ME's, you'd be minimally effective. For example, if you got half highly effectives and half effectives, you'd fall in the middle at the 3.5. If you had a few more highly effectives, you'd be above a 3.5, which would put you in a highly effective. If you had a few fewer highly effectives and more effectives, you'd be in the effective range. So that's at that 3.5 barrier, 2.5 barrier, 1.5 barrier, halfway between the ratings does for you there. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You will have a copy of this presentation, so you can go back and look at these notes. But thank you very much, and like I said, do contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.